Okay, so here we'll begin the seminar now. And this talk today will be new crop pictures or messages from UFOs in the years 2015 or 2016. And I just wanted to give you a summary of things we're talking about. This was a very famous crop picture in 2015. And here's one in 2016, only about a month ago, or less than a month ago. Here's a UFO that was seen in 2015 with little symbols on the side. And here's a code used by the inhabitants of that UFO, occupants, to give a message to someone on Earth. And we're going to talk about that message. So now if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks to Paul, you may feel like a long YouTube video. You don't need to watch all of this, just flick around. However, every single part of this seminar has important truths. So you do need to watch it all just like a movie, okay? And if you really want to know it'll affect everyone's lives in the future, just imagine if 1 million or 10 million or 100 million people knew the truth about other intelligences trying to contact us. Imagine how the world would be changed, our political, economic systems, everything. So please watch to the end if you can and tell your friends, and the truth will set you free. Believe me, when you see this, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And today, I was reading the online The Express. 76% of people believe there's a cover-up of ET life. So you're in the majority. There are only not that many people here, but you're in the majority. And you don't want to be like this man. And there are a lot of people like this. I was just talking to a whole bunch of ostrich people like that. You don't want to be like this man. So we'll get into the people who are still sitting down. So if you're out there watching on YouTube, believe me, this is worth your while to watch for 90 minutes like a movie. Just keep looking until you're finished, and you'll be stunned. I can't do any faster than that. So first, I'll just start, while the people are sitting down, to explain my credibility. I'm a respected professional scientist with a Caltech Ph.D. It's the highest Ph.D. you can get in science. There's no lower. And I'm not a New Age believer. I'm a scientist. I'm studying these like other scientists. Everything you see in this seminar is factual and true. I don't care what the newspaper said. This is factual and true. Okay? The reporter doesn't know anything. So, and just to remind you what I did earlier, when I was younger, much younger, this was my first X-ray structure I did in 1980. The first X-ray structure of DNA on Earth. It's called the Dickerson-Drew dodecamer. And no one has done better in 35 years. And this was 1980 before all the computers, you know, and fancy. We just did it. The first X-ray, every little atom there was accurately. And then I did a left-handed DNA. That was in Nature 1979. The DNA is left-handed. I'm left-handed. And then also when I was in Cambridge, we studied the nucleosome core particle, which is that it, and we studied how DNA bends in it. So this is very advanced. We figure out the code, a new part of the genetic code. So I'm very, very well experienced. Paul, is the voice right? Good. So this isn't some New Age crazy stuff. Okay? And I've got three editions of a textbook from Academic Press. I got tired of writing it after the third edition. All about DNA, and you can buy that if you want, but it's sold 20, 30,000 copies, graduate level text. So I know everything. Now, let's get into the main part of the talk. What we're going to start is just a quick visual overview with the 2015 crop circle season, just a survey of what they looked like. Now, there were 50 or so pictures. I'm just going to show about 5 of them to get you an idea, if you haven't seen them before, what they look like. This remarkable picture, this remarkable picture appeared near Ravenna, Italy on June 20, 1915. And you see the use of perspective. It actually illustrated Jupiter with the belts over Venus in the sky that day. And one way you can tell a real crop picture versus a fake is all these little details in the fallen crop. It's highly patterned, and no humans can do that. You see, not only it's patterned at the level of pushing it down, but also the waviness here. There's just no human can do that with a rope and board. So that's one of the things we look for. And this one's a very famous one, the Hopi eagle dancer. And people said, oh, but it's not. Again, you see the three-dimensional perspective. The crop artist is going to return at 0 hour like a Hopi eagle dancer. He's making a joke. He's going to be the Hopi eagle dancer. And I put a few pictures that you can see what he was, a metaphor, what he's basing it on quite clearly. This was a very famous one, and it raised about 10,000 pounds for cancer charity through my friend Paul Jacobs collecting money. It was off, interestingly, the wife of the man at Hackpin Hill where this was, she had died of cancer, so he's devoted all the money goes to cancer chemotherapy in Swindon. It's all for charity. My friend Paul Jacobs, and I went to this one in person and photographed everything last summer in late July. What an impressive thing, isn't it, you know? Now, another way you can tell if crop circle's real, if you look at the lay and you see how it's going outward like that. Now, how is anybody going to do that with a rope and a board? They can't do it. So those are the things we look for. And you see it was there and it's sort of laid around the edges. If you walk around through this, you say, oh no, look at this. So it's really easy to tell if you look at the flattened crop and how it's patterned. So we can just forget about anything you've heard in the newspapers or anything. Here's another one I went to on August 4th last year, and it's hard to photograph from the air. I photographed it from the ground. This was Lucy Pringle's photo. And each of these is a little swirl of crop. There are like 200 of them. There's an 8-pointed star. It's highly patterned. It's just very difficult to photograph from the air, but again, no one could possibly have done this using rope and board, and everybody found it, and I was there the first morning, and no one could have done this, so that's actually what an extraterrestrial artwork, and there are a lot of photos of this. This was at Edgehill-Hampton on August 4th last year, and this one, you psychic people will like. The bird, the ET bird, is flying our way, and he's going to bring us the third eye, 1 eye, 2 eye, 3 eyes. The third eye is what that means. The psychic abilities, the ET bird. It's a metaphor. All crop circles are metaphorical, like artwork. 1 eye, 2 eye. It's like the Thunderbird. So these are just visual images, like artwork, authentic ET artwork. And why the world can't recognize this, I don't know. It's all around the world. Now, let's get into some harder stuff. There was a very famous crop picture last summer, which gave a coded message of all importance for the world. Because it was ignored, many, many people have died without cause, and I'll explain this. And this is serious, and we got from the lightness to the serious. And I decoded it. So when I decoded it, the code I'll show you went, Timeo et Ferentis. I said, what's that? Fortunately, I studied Latin in high school. And this is the first practical use in all these years of studying Latin in high school. Because I recognized it was in Latin, and it was in Italy. And technically it means, beware of extraterrestrials bearing gifts. I fear ET who are bearing, and it's implied, gifts. And it was next to an airport runway near Turin, and no one could, it was restricted airspace. No one could fly there, walk there, you'd be arrested. It was on lockdown. The Pope was visiting. So you can imagine 20 guys go out there, the Pope visiting near the airport. How long are they going to be out there all night and not get arrested by the police? The police are everywhere. The Pope was visiting. And here it is. Now just feast your eyes. This is one of the most impressive crop pictures. And this was photographed by Valeria Silvio. You couldn't fly a drone there. She had to get on her own airplane and go up with Silvio and take pictures out the window. She's a professional photographer. It's restricted airspace. It was very hard to photograph. A nice Italian woman did it. So you see in the center this big thing here, highly impressive, and there are little codes written 0, 1, 0 all the way around the outside. So that was the first thing you study, the little 8 series codes. So you wonder, what are they showing us here? Let's look at the codes a bit closer. There are codes everywhere. There are triangles flattened, triangles, and look at that. I mean, nobody walked through there. You know, there's no trail of anybody walking, and there's just a little triangle flattened in the crop, and no one walked there. So it's impossible, 100% impossible to make that, okay? What's interesting now, these little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, those are typical ASCII computer codes. And you have a 0 and a 1 and a 0. So you can see right away this is 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1. So I did this about over a year ago, and I studied it, all of it, but we'll show just a little of it. And here's the meaning. Timeo et Ferentis, I fear extraterrestrials bearing gifts. It's pretty cool, isn't it? And I was looking and I said, wow, I get to translate that. And there's the T, and there's the I. It's not that hard. And interestingly, between words, where Timeo ends, they put 2 little things, they ET, and then 2 little things. They put little things to tell you where the words begin and end. And there's 16 letters in total. So let's just look at that from another perspective. This shows you the complication of the binary code. So there were a few triangles rather than circles, why I have these little marks. And that was, let's just look at that for a second. Timeo et Ferentis, I fear extraterrestrials bearing gifts. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So this was crop circle of the year last summer. And look at all the binary digits, all done perfectly. Each of these was swirled perfectly. In the open crop, nobody walked there. And you could get into it. I've written many articles on this, June 23rd last year. Now, what are they trying to tell us? It's in Latin, where the Pope is visiting, the Pope speaks Latin. What are they trying to tell us here? You know, you think about it. And it's very simple. They've done a previous message before in crops. Beware of ET bearing gifts. The previous message in 2002 was beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. So we have two messages. Now this is the one in 2015, and this is the one in 2002. The gray alien, the little CD next to him, and there's a code there, just like there's a code here. Here they could have come out like light, and there they go around like in a CD. And beware the bearer, I'll show this whole code in a minute. And what clearly we're talking about the gray alien here, and they met with the Eisenhower, the government, and they made false promises to give them gifts of military. They made false promises and they broke them. So clearly we're talking about the meeting between the US government and the alien. And the crop artist is no friend of these guys. You'll see in a minute, he's no friend, okay? So clearly we're talking about an artist who doesn't like this particular alien race, more than one alien race. And let's just look at it from another one. Here's the crop circle. And beware the Greeks bearing gifts. And here are the little aliens, hey, I got something for you. Here's the present, bearing the gift. And this passage actually comes out of the Aeneid by Virgil in 25 BC. Timeo Danios et dona ferentes. So I fear the Greeks even when they're bearing gifts. So this thing refers to the Trojan horse. It's telling us there's an ET Trojan horse. That they're giving gifts to the US government, but it's all a Trojan horse. That's just to get our defenses down. And this is extremely serious. There's nothing could be more serious than this. Let's just go on. At the time this appeared, a few months later, we had the Trojan horse. It's not hard to figure out, okay? Let me in, the Trojan horse. And we knew at the time this was most likely the Trojan horse. Everybody knew, all the crop circle people knew. They're telling us ET's arranging this to somehow cause trouble on Earth, the Trojan horse. But the debunkers said, oh, it's all rope and boards, I'll show you the idiots. So this serious warning in Latin was completely ignored, probably by a time traveler. And let's just review the consequences of that. If our leaders had listened to this subtle warning of timeo et ferentes, they would have never let millions of Syrian refugees into Europe. It wouldn't have happened. Because whatever it is, it's just too dangerous. We're being warned, okay? And all of those people who died, Paris, Brussels, just think about that. The scoffing at UFOs, all those dead people would be alive now who were killed by refugees. How many have thousands? Did anybody guess how many are there? That's just so far. There was just more in Europe. And so, of course, all the crop circles knew it, researchers knew at the time. And the problem is our leaders have closed minds and won't listen. Now, if you think I'm joking about Europe, this summer, I'll just show you a preview of this summer, there were several more repeating the same theme. Europe's in a lot of trouble. Celtic Europe's in a lot of trouble. And a few months ago, they drew that the sharks are circling a Celtic triquetra, which is Europe. And I put it in here just to show you. This was near Hatpin Hill. And here's your shark. This maybe wasn't a great photo of it. Here's a shark here. There's a shark there. The shark is chasing a little fish. It's extremely clever, isn't it, you know? In the center is the Celtic triquetra, which is a symbol of Europe. Here's the shark chasing the fish, shark circling. So there's no doubt Europe is in trouble. And there was a third warning. I just don't want to talk too much about it. So there's no doubt they're warning us Europe is in trouble. And it's not just the Syrians, there's some hidden agenda here causing trouble for Europe. It's all planned. There's some desperately trouble here, okay? So, and this is all being ignored. So you can just ignore it at your peril, okay? I've shown it over and over again. Now, let's see what the professional debunkers do just early in the seminar to get rid of them, to show, oh, rope and boards. Serious researchers can see through their fakeries immediately. We have 20 million people here, 100 million in Europe who say, oh, it might be true, you know? So let's just see what the professional debunkers do. This was one just about 3 weeks or a month after that crop picture. They'd been working on their computers. So they weren't there, they didn't have any films, but they photoshopped everything like a Hollywood movie. And they produced this thing. And they said, oh, we made it with boards. And here's some guy standing here with a board. Torino, you know, they put this in Italian magazines to all the people. It's all Photoshop. None of it is real, and I'll prove it in just a second. They're just little cartoon images. If you zoom in, it's not real. They're little cartoon overlays. It's a field of young green wheat. And if you look at the wheat, you see it comes here and it goes sideways there, you see? The wheat comes like that, and then it goes sideways. This is some other crop picture. I don't know which other crop picture, but it's not the same field, not even the same field. So it's no different than a unicorn or a mermaid. It's the same thing. If you believe in the unicorn and the mermaid, you can believe in that. But the Italian people, a lot of them believe in it. Now I'll show you in response to this, an Italian researcher, Damiano, who was a bit sick of it, made the following image. This is the real crop picture, which is brown wheat, and it's just circular, there's no stuff. And he posted in 2 cartoon aliens holding their hands up like that. Damiano. This is the real field where it appeared. It was old brown wheat, not young wheat. There was a different lay in the crop, and he put this thing, something got perfect. So, E.T. only could have made it. We made it, you clowns, not by a satire by a local Italian researcher. Let's just go back and look at the fake one again. It doesn't look the same, does it? Now I go back to the real one. This is totally different. So the Italian people were conned by these professional debunkers. So let's just show, just to show you how arrogant these people are, let's show you what else they produced last year. The Italian debunkers, another fake image they produced, put on Facebook. Here's the planker. And here, the Pope was visiting. He's supposedly holding up and recommending this thing to people. And sure, bro, we believe you. Yes, I believe you, sure. So if you want to find out who the debunkers are, who's paying all that money to debunk crop circles and let people get killed in Europe, go to Wikipedia CSICAP, the Committee of the Paranormal or whatever, some bullshit thing. And that tells you who they are who are lying about crop circles to the Italians. There's a different group in every country. Because of the consequence of their lies, let's review this. Because they lied about the warning, the political leaders didn't take any notice, and all the people are dead. A, B, C. And there's no excuses. I'm tired of fraud, there's no excuses. These people are responsible. If there's an earthquake and there's another earthquake and people, they're responsible. That's CSICAP, okay? I'm not allowed to say any more because of slander who they are. I know all of them, okay? I know who they are. They're getting, now why would they do it? And they're getting paid. The Intel services, you'll see some more. They're paying them, it's just payola. He's getting paid to do it. I can't mention names for libel reasons. So that's pretty serious. We're looking at almost like a criminal offense here. Something that's like affected, it's not against the law technically, but morally it's very, very bad. Now, crop circles are likewise debunked in England very aggressively. If you talk about crop circles in England, it's like talking about the Dalai Lama in China. Oh, he's a separatist. I've been over there. It's a forbidden book. I broke his book. Oh, no, don't look at that book. Take the Dalai Lama's Freedom in Exile. It was a forbidden book in China. Now, however, I'd like to emphasize the real crop artists know what the BBC and all the other, they know they're lying, and I'll show you why. In 2002, they drew this, the BBC Winchester transmitter, where the BBC broadcast their propaganda. And here's a gray alien. And part of the code here, there's a binary code. Another part of the code says, we oppose deception. And it points right at the BBC transmitter. They have no doubt they know the BBC's lying. So we have the BBC lying, we have the Italians lying. And just in case you think this is human-made, this was the code in total. Beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises, the gray aliens. Much pain, but still time. That's us. And that was 2002. Time's running out, as you'll see in a few minutes. Believe there is good out there. We oppose deception, conduit closing. And the conduit's like a space-time wormhole. They open the space-time wormhole. They have wormhole technology. And look at this big thing. I mean, that's perfect. And the capital letters are a second code, but I don't have time to explain it. But this is who made it. So this is 100% again reliable. And the two messages are consistent across 13 years. So you just look at that and I'm thinking, why aren't the scientists of the world doing something about it? How can you possibly think this was made by people with rope and bore? I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of mind control. What do you think, Maria? Something's wrong, okay? Now, we're going to get into the meat of the second part of the talk, which will stun you. If you haven't seen it before, Linda Howe brought this problem to me. 6 days after that crop picture appeared, maybe the people who made it flew over Atlanta in the USA, and they were seen on webcams, NASA. The fleet of UFOs flew over Atlanta in the southeast USA. And the same time Valeria, my friend in England, was photographing that, they picked a military man near Wadley, Georgia, and they gave him messages which were quite similar to the picture I showed you. So they give double message. So important messages provided this CJ, who's an active military man. That's a nickname because he doesn't want to lose his job. He's got a wife and family. You can listen to him. They first encountered him and his family on June 29 near Wadley, Georgia, in a mass UFO sighting over the southeastern USA. It's recorded on iPhones and NASA Skycams. So there's no doubt. I could show, and here's some. This was the UFO which he sketched, some symbols, and here's some of the photographs flying over on the Skycams. And there's no other explanations. This is it, you know. So the reason we got interested is because this man sketched these symbols from scratch. He just saw it in the sky with his wife and kids for about 5 minutes. He wrote these on a piece of paper. And then John Burroughs, one of the witnesses to the Rendlesham Forest UFO in 1980, very famous time travel UFO, and had written these symbols. So they were so similar, John called Linda and said, I think you better look at this, you know, there's some sort of similarity here. These symbols here, that's 1980, and this is over in England, and this is 2015 over Atlanta. And this is a crop circle. So you're thinking, oh, some relation between all three of them. These are time travelers from our future, but we don't know who these are yet, okay? So you're thinking now, what makes this case so much more important than any other UFO case in history is the aliens met the guy later and they gave him a long message which is 100% reliable. Now I'm going to show that to you now. You don't have to guess channeling or anything. You're going to see a computer-derived message. And what they do is they can't talk, like I'm not very good at talking either. But the gray aliens, they can't talk because they have these little mouths. So they have to use telepathy. Everybody understand? They can't do it any other way. Maybe I don't know how they do it. Maybe they have an iPhone in their head, but they have to use a telepathic means of communication. I'll come over here, sort of, let's say hello to these people. So what we do, we can already do that on Earth. We've set up a computer system where you put something on your head and light flashes to tell you a 0 or 1. So this man anyway, the aliens were in the same room with him. I'll show you what they looked like. He saw them and they were holding him down. And one of them was getting frustrated because he couldn't receive it. And maybe they helped him somehow. He had 4 hours of missing time. He saw symbols in his mind, then wrote down 4 different binary symbols, even though all codes on Earth use just 2 symbols, 0 or 1. So this was a mystery. So Linda, we got hold of this guy. He doesn't want to be known, but there's a long interview with him on YouTube. I'll tell you in a minute. And we had to figure out what the message was. This was around last winter. So Linda Howe, who does this, got copies of this unknown thing off his phone, had been given by close-range telepathy and written down by a contactee. The aliens were around him and they had him use the pencil to write it down, okay? And she sent them to me for translation because no one could figure out what they meant. So it took me 2 weeks. And I tested hundreds of codes and finally I had a revelation. Said, after 2 weeks I said, I finally know what they mean. And it's really simple, but our computer guys on Earth don't know this yet. And this would revolutionize our computer industries. We just don't know how to do it. Maybe they will after this talk. Who are the computer experts? Silicon Valley. A normal binary code has 0 and 1. So a square might be 0 and that might be 1. So that's what we do. But they have 2 more codes. They make 2 kinds of 0. So that 0 and that 0 are 0 and 1. And then they make 2 kinds of 1. That 1 and that 1 are 0, 1. So they have 3 overlapping messages. So there are 2 kinds of 0s and 2 kinds of 1, and you have 4 symbols altogether. So now that's a 0, but that becomes a 1. That's a 0, and that becomes a 1. So this is what he wrote down. So that was given to me. There was more. I just showed a little bit. And you look at it and you said, oh no, what am I going to do with that? That was my problem. That's a pretty tough problem, wasn't it? Do you see why it took 2 weeks? Because I was struggling. I've got to read a word. How can I read even 1 word? I'd be happy. Anyway, so I finally did it, and you can see, you can see here, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. I won't explain that, it's too complicated. And he got them by telepathy and just did little parts. So if you're a computer person out there, No computer and experts on Earth know of this code. It's called a multiplex binary code. It's like color TV versus black and white TV. We have a black and white TV. There's one color. It's either black or white, and it comes in for each pixel. Color TV has red, blue, and green. So that's why it's color and not. And this is like color computing. So they use color computing, and we use black and white computing. So we haven't done it yet. So no one, it's not anywhere. So right away you know this is not a fake. This can't be a fake. If it's a fake, why not compute? There's no patent, there's no discussion, there's no web page. It's obvious in retrospect to a computer person. Even still, I show it to computer people, they can't understand. 3 different messages overlap, so as you see, so here's how, let's just look at it. So normally we have A, B, C, D. This is your standard binary code on your phones as they transmitted. Well, not exactly, but principle. What they do now, they have another letter A here by shading the zeros, another letter B, another letter C, or you can shade the ones. So this is what it looks like when you mix all that together. And just to do that by hand took me about 4 hours, because you have to get you have to make each one boldface. So it's really, you have to have a computer program to write it. So now we're going to say, now we know we've got an authentic message from ET, the most important in all history, in modern history. So what does it say? What are we going to learn? Why do they do it? What was they to hello or nice birthday? Why do they do it? And let's just see what it says. This is the overall code as a summary. It's a very long code, and you can go to it. And it was done in parts. This was on June 30, because he had to receive it mentally. This was on June 30. And these are in different parts of the next few months. You know, he'd come out and the alien would be in his backyard. He'd get a message and come out and see the alien again in his backyard. So let's just go through the parts. Short-range telepathy. The first part is very mysterious. And this is the UFO, a couple images of it. And these are the aliens who are around him. That one had blue eyes. They were wearing contact lenses to protect themselves from light, because they couldn't like our bright light. Continuous protection of humanity. And they give some latitude and longitude coordinates. I'll come back to that in the next slide, but very important. Expose hidden knowledge to all citizens. Advancement imperative for planetary survival. Beware of Orion 1350.3 and Zeta Reticuli 39.170. Avoid signal messages sent. So let's just stop and look at that for a second. This is a latitude and longitude, which I've solved it. What's 1350.3? Does anybody know? This is where the Orion or Zeta Reticuli grays come from, the distance in light years between their star and Earth. So the Orion grays come from a star 1350.3 light years away. The grays, like from Area 51s, come from Zeta Reticuli 2. And the interesting thing is they've given a more digit of accuracy than we know today. So we only know like 39.17. The 0 is not in our science yet. So this is more accurate by a whole digit than we know, okay? So we're bewaring of these grays. They're protecting humanity through time. Continuous means it's going through time. They're time travelers. And they live here. Okay? Can you remember that for a second? Let's go into the next part. This is the serious part. Imminent threat soon upon Earth's leaders and civilizations. And I translated that. Linda was going to a meeting. I said, I think we got something to worry about here. So Linda, have you seen this? And she didn't really want to tell people because it would scare people off. But I have to tell the truth. Expose and disband hidden knowledge to all citizens. Employ safe and controlled joint study to all minds. Progression imperative for combined survival. So if they don't disclose the UFOs, we're dead. Sorry, I didn't mean to get you with the laser. Now, that was the first message. These are the two overlapping messages and the same thing. Embrace the space vessel threat. Now this is quite clever. 000 journey 12 light years. 000 is emergency. So spelling out emergency, they do 000. 12 light years is Tau Cetis. That's probably where they live. They came here especially to make this warning to us. This is even cleverer. Ike's embedded citizens are ready. It's Eisenhower, CIA. I'll show you. I'll show you what the code is. Disclose, evolve. I don't know what that means. Okay? That's pretty cool. We'll come back to that in a minute. So in other words, they've come here especially to warn us. Now this is even more cool. These are called the Emerthers. They're friendly aliens. They're not all friendly. Royal Emerther warning. So that means the royal family is warning us, you know, like the Prince Charles of the Emerthers. Expose foreign technology to all evolutionary advancement needed to prevent takeover. Now right away you know these are the friendly aliens from Tau Ceti. They're warning us about other aliens from other places. And what they've done, they've given a lot of technology to the U.S. in secret. And that technology can't be secret. It has to be given to the China, Russia academics around the world in order for us to survive. Disclose, evolve. If we don't do that, they say we're stuffed. And I'll let you read I'll give you more information about that in a minute. So you can't really get a more important message than this. Nothing more global, nothing is more important than this. So again, it's being ignored. Now let me show you back, this is very interesting. Nuremberg, Germany. 500 years ago, there was a UFO battle over Nuremberg, Germany. These are the latitude, longitude of Nuremberg, Germany. And this is in the code. Interestingly, they're using degrees and minutes, not decimal. So this is where they were living, at least, and this is part of another code. You know, there's a long thing here. And here, there was a UFO battle, a very famous one. Here's one of them crashing. Here's a ship shooting one another. One crashes. And this is a UFO orb from the crop circles, and this is another crop circle. So you can see it's the same people. Some sort of time travel involved here, and they were in Nuremberg. One, just like the Borg coming back to and Captain Picard fighting in the past. There's some sort of time travel UFO battle happened 500 years ago, and these are those people. They're coming back, time travelers, aliens, who knows? We don't know. Now, in addition to that, if your mind isn't stretched, because it's hard to transmit the message, they put secondary overlaid codes in it. And what they did was they had various overlaid codes. One is a false capital letter code. So I've colored them. So some of these things don't need to be capitalized. And one says here, check all AI, artificial intelligence. Like something's wrong with our computers. Computer warfare, something's wrong with our computers. The Trojan horse, the computer. There's definitely going to be a trouble here, or maybe a cyber attack. Okay? And I'll skip just three. Now this is really interesting. I looked at that and I said, why are those letters capitalized? Then finally I realized they spell Eisenhower. E-I-S-E-N-H, Hauer. They put the R there. So I said, that's pretty clever, wasn't it? I was happy. Can you see that? They did a fake, because they've met Eisenhower before. As you see, this group has met Eisenhower. And then the next one's Majestic, Majestic 12, M-A, whatever, J. So they told exactly who they are. They've given keywords. And now let's go down to the next one. The next one, again, they capitalize MAJ12, Majestic 12. Alex embedded citizens, the CIA. So this is a standard way of embedding second. So they know us pretty well. And the Emertha are the friendly grays. So this is really 100% reliable. There's no doubt this is a true alien message to Earth from friendly aliens trying to protect us. We do nothing about it. I'm talking for that reason. And here they are. Who are the Emerthers? These are the Emerthers. These are known. This was some Russian book. Not much known about them. This is what they're supposed to look like. And this is a sketch by the guy what he laid on the table when they were giving him the blue eye when they were giving him the code. The Emertha is the most important race, not only of the Council of Five, but also all races. They met with Eisenhower on 3 different occasions. Now, what I'm going to do is, because of limited talk, I'm going to put some Google notes. And you can write down these words and find out more. If you write down multiplex binary code CJ, you'll get the full article. Somebody write it down, multiplex binary code CJ, and you can learn more, because I have to limit the talk as time. Just let everybody write it down for a second or two. And you can find out more. And you don't have to worry, but you can see the code again. You don't have to just rely on this seminar. Multiplex binary code CJ. That's just a name for the guy. Let me know when you're ready. I wrote a long article about it, so you can, okay? Everybody happy? Okay, so we can come back. You don't have to worry if you haven't got it all. You can come back and study it later. Just to give you, now you're interested. Got your interest. Now, to summarize, the Emerthers are warning us about other aliens from Orion or Zeta Reticuli. Beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. Beware of Orion and Zeta Reticuli. Here are the Emerthers. And this was the Orion's belt, and the other one there, what you see, it's the Orion's belt. So it's an Orion gray. You got to be very clever to figure that out. An Orion gray. And the Emerthers probably made this famous Arecibo reply crop picture to Carl Sagan. Does that look like an Emerther? The Tau Ceti system, different forms of DNA. You like that? I'll explain that. Various components of DNA. So probably the Emerthers are our friends. So we have gray aliens, but they aren't all our friends. Some of the grays are our friends, others not the friends. So these ones apparently like us, and other gray aliens don't. So you can't tell by looking at a book by the cover. So it's very complicated. We have at least 3 races, and we're going to get more. Now Betty and Barney Hill, just to place perspective, They met the Zeta Reticuli guys in 1961. Betty over here drew this star map from memory, and this is the same guy, the crop circle they warned about, and the star map was again Zeta Reticuli. So there's no doubt this is all true. And here's Sun. This is their trade route. We're on their trade route. So there's no doubt that this is all the same, all true. However much people try to debunk it, the Betty Barney Hill case and all that. Okay? Now, your minds are almost expanded. We're going to have a break because my mind's expanded. I was almost through this, and I said, well, Linda, that pretty much just does it. There's nothing left to do. Linda says, I've got another code for you. I said, okay, this should be easy. So she gives me another code to translate, and this thing comes in, and I look at it in the morning, and I said, Nabu Rakbu 01 Larak. What does that mean? So finally, I realized it was the Sumerian, phonetic Sumerian. Sumeria, the ancient Middle East. And when you translate it, it's not cuneiform Sumerian. Sanu Ki was the last word. I knew Ki was earth. So Ki is earth, that's all I knew. Anunnaki, the ones who came from the sky to earth. So what it means is Prophet Messenger 01, seeing the bright glow, inform the earth. So that was the guy he contacted was evidently Prophet Messenger 01. They're going to have more. So when you look at this, there's a really good chance the Earthers who are giving this lived with us long ago. We've just forgotten. Here's the group, Greek-like symbols. They're the Earthers from the CJ sketch. And here's some things dug up out of the ground in the Middle East. So you think there's a resemblance? Why would the people in the Middle East draw these little eye things unless the Earthers lived with them? So I suspect they have a very long history. This is shocking. I mean, this is, again, another shocking thing. So you have to absorb, well, there's a lot to think about. And it looks like Greek, there's a Greek there. So I think we have to rest. This is halfway through, and I have to rest. So let's take a break, and we'll think about this. And I've given you something to do during the break. It's the reason I'm breaking. The major message is disclose. This is not me, it's the Earthers. They want me to say this to you. It's easy to remember. Disclose, evolve. This should be the UFO slogan worldwide. Disclose, evolve. They've asked me to say this. Now, during the break, if you Google Linda Howe, Alien Contact CJ, you can hear a phone interview with the man who wrote down all the code. And if you listen to that, you'll be even more stunned. So you can come back to all this again. I'm just giving you first exposure. The two things are multiplex binary code CJ to Google. And now you can Google Linda Howe, Alien Contact CJ, and you can go home and follow it up at your own leisure. Is everybody happy with that? 2 Google references? And that way you don't have to absorb, don't have to worry, because there's a lot to absorb, isn't there? So let's take a break now. And when we come back, we'll talk about the 2016 crop circles, which are even more spectacular than this, but more visual. Okay? The reason I wanted a break was because there's so much intellectual information there, and I didn't want that to lose emphasis, because it's very important. And then with the new parts, just as important but different. So I didn't want the things to blur together in your head. So personally, I need about 10 minutes to think things over, and I thought everyone else would too. Now the next part's going to be a summary of the 2016 crop circle season. Now there are 50 crop circles, but I can't show all 50, so I'm going to show my personal highlights. And again, you'll be shocked, but in a probably more pleasant sort of way. Not threats, but anyway, so let's get into it. Now, you've known this is very important. I've just showed you very important stuff. Thousands of lives, alien threat. We have to disclose the alien technology to survive. Why can't we make this known to everyone on Earth? Why won't most people listen? While they're watching, I think of this all the time, while they're watching football games or reality shows on TV, instead of protecting their own future interests. Why are you doing it? So, do you know anyone like this? Raise your hand if you know somebody like this. Now, do you know anybody like this? And this is pretty much describes, of course there's some English people who are very interested in circles, but this certainly describes modern England fairly accurately, This is a typical Wiltshire landscape where the girl's completely oblivious. I've been by spectacular crop pictures. You're walking by, someone flew from overseas, and some English woman walking the dog. said, what are you doing? I said, that one just appeared. I can just see it over there. We go, first time, no one's seen it. I'm the second person in. And she's, oh, they're all made by rope and boards. Then she just keeps walking her dog. So she'll walk right by it and won't even look. So this is very accurate, you know, and you think about, this is very true, you know. So in addition to that, there's often someone was talking to someone, there's a serious difficulty of understanding what the messages are. And you understood that from that complex code that took me 2 weeks, and basically they're just more intelligent than we are. And often I feel like this. When I try to explain crop circles, I definitely feel most people have intellectual difficulty, and it's very hard for me to explain something. And often, when we're working on a crop circle, my nickname is Red Collie, but this is basically how I feel. Well, and some crop circles really look like that. You know, how does this work? You know, so there are two difficulties. There's the difficulty of the subject because they're so intelligent, and also the social aspect. So now let's get into the 2016 crop circle season. While there's a puzzle, this was one that appeared about 2 weeks ago at Nursteed Farm, and it's a picture of Metatron's cube in perspective. And there's some other things to it, but it's very hard for fakers to make any three-dimensional perspective. So whenever you see that, that was a interesting. It's beautiful, isn't it? Do you like it? Interestingly, these are all peace symbols. You see peace symbols? First thing I noticed, they're all nuclear disarmament peace symbols. So they could have drawn it in many different ways, so they chose it with 6 peace symbols. That's very elegant. Now, and so, some crop circles can be a real puzzle to understand. I did this because I was looking at it, figuring it out, and this one was a previous one from a few years earlier, a Rubik's. They both sort of look like Rubik's cubes. This was a few years earlier, another cube, you know. So it's a real puzzle, you know, you have to study it for days to understand. Now this is a funny one, and it's relevant to what we were talking about before. Here we have a gray alien here, and around him are turkey feathers. So here's your turkey. This is meant to be humorous if you're not laughing. There's your turkey, and there's the alien, and the reason is the extraterrestrial man who's coming figures he's going to overwhelm the gray aliens in military force so much that it's going to be like a turkey shoot. Do you know what a turkey shoot is? That's when, in America, what's called turkey shoot is like when Reagan took the forces into Grenada. So the Grenada military had no chance. So he's very confident, the crop artist, that the gray aliens won't have a chance. And they're his target. They're the turkey he's going to shoot. He's going to shoot the gray aliens like they're a turkey. When they try to do something to the Earth people, he's going to protect us. This is a very humorous metaphor, isn't it? The turkey shoot. People.
Sorry, just who's going to protect us? What?
You'll see him in a second.
Okay.
You'll see who it is. A human-looking alien's going to protect us. This is what he's promising. So there's not just the gray aliens, there's some that look like humans, and he's the one who made this one. He's a few more slides, and he's a jokester, so he says this is going to be a turkey shoot. He's flying this way. So it's a humorous metaphor, isn't it? Okay. Now, this was in Germany, and people couldn't understand, but it's obvious there's some sort of missile launches going on here. Now, I can't tell you whether they're going to shoot at the UFOs or whether they're going to shoot it, Russia or America are going to shoot with one another. But some sort of missiles are going to be launched here. This wasn't the only one. There are quite a few, or I wouldn't have shown it. There's a spectacular crop picture in Germany. Somebody's going to shoot off some missiles. And this year, and I don't know who, I don't know any more than that. It's quite an elegant crop picture, isn't it? Beautiful. That was in Germany, not in England, in Bavaria. And here's another one to show you that we're getting into our close phase. Mariana will like this. This one appeared near a gun firing range in England. It shows a 100-day countdown calendar. So got the, just ignore it. There's the countdown calendar. There's 100 days, and 23 of them had been ticked off by August 3rd. So we only got 77 left. So naturally you start thinking, oh, I wonder where I start counting, you know? Do I start on August 3rd, or was that day 23? So I don't know. However, I'll tell you, if that was day 23 when it appeared, then day 100 is October 19. And it was pointed, it was drawn. There's a place where the British Army practices shooting. And it points exactly at that. In other words, there's a military connotation with it. October, if it's October 19. It also could be like the US election, but there's definitely a military countdown, and there's some more about it. This is really quite a profound time travel prediction of some sort, but they're very cryptic about it. Well, I mean, afterwards it'll agree with something. But that's only months ago. You know, we're on day 50 now. It's quite interesting. Now, this was a very famous crop picture near Stonehenge, and it was a star. And interestingly, all these things around the outside. And I wonder what they meant. Then I counted them all, which is very difficult to count them. You know, you count them. And it turns out they're in decimal ASCII code, MIR, peace, in Russian for peace. It's like a plea to Russia for peace. There could be other codes, but they're exactly 73. Can you imagine that? Exactly 82. These little, and there's a seven-pointed star, 7773. So in decimal ASCII code, 77 is M, 73 is I, and 82 is R. They use this code quite often. And this was a famous megalithic author, Hugh Newman, famous writer who took this photo near Stonehenge. It was near Stonehenge. Nobody saw anything. You know, there are guards everywhere, and it was just opposite Stonehenge. So no one saw anything. Here's another one. Believe it or not, this is the jokester. Near a windmill, he drew this one. And I've put on a Fibonacci curve, and there's a smile. You see where I put this? Just the smile. Because what happens is, he made a couple Alice in Wonderland crop circles. Because the Cheshire Cat is a very mysterious creature. The Cheshire Cat, you don't see him. And then he comes out, and all you see is his face and his smile. When he appears or disappears, all you see is his face and his smile. So here the Cheshire Cat appears, and there's his grin, his laconic grin. It's based on the golden mean. And you think, oh, Horace is over-interpreting this, but I'm not. Because then a few days later, there's Cheshire Cat coming out of a space-time wormhole. All we can see is his face. So when he first comes out, all we see is his face. And this is the wormhole. He's coming out of the wormhole. Obviously, this part of the crop picture is meant to resemble that, right? And he comes out, and there's a little cat coming out, the wormhole, and here's the cat coming out. Here he is. So he's going to come out of the wormhole. When we first see this crop artist, he'll be like the Cheshire Cat. He'll come out of nowhere, and we won't see him before. He'll just come out of nowhere. So he's making a humorous metaphor based on Alice in Wonderland of the Cheshire Cat. Did you find that funny? So he's a jokester. You'll see some more jokester. So yeah, the jokes will only increase, but if not. Now here's where they live. When they're not here, where do they live? About a month ago, they had a crop picture appear at a place called Sparticle Woods. And my friend Mark Fussell, who runs the website, said Sparticle is called a shadow particle in physics. Why they choose the name Sparticle? That's what's called Sparticle, is a shadow particle. Shadow particle. So when you look at it, here's the crop picture. It was the field it was in, and it was out of sync. And when you see these, typically you think you're supposed to rearrange it. It's a puzzle. So you rearrange it, and there are two ways you can rearrange it. One is to get a face like that. The other is to get a little smiley face, or you can do it like that or like that. There are various ways, so you play around because they're asking you to rearrange it in some way. Looking at you from this little square, you know? This is a typical puzzle, crop circle puzzle. And here's another one. This is what was drawn in crops, and then you rearrange it, you get that, which is the time tunnel, which they grew in crops. And these are, in physics, these are called the particles we can see, and the shadow particles. So maybe there's a big universe out there we don't know about. We're like the primitive people. We don't know about all these other parallel universes. So when you look at the landscape, now I wanted to show you, crop circles are always chosen in certain landscapes to enhance the message. So when I looked at the landscape, I went here and the crop circle was drawn here, Sparticle Woods. This is the crop circle. And you look and immediately you see this picture of an explorer like Captain Cook. We're looking through a telescope. And that was intentional, so that was no doubt that was associated with the meaning of the crop circle. So I was scratching my head and thinking, what's this, like charades, extraterrestrial charades? What are they trying to tell me? So then I look a little further, and what do you see? Here's the extraterrestrial man looking through his telescope. Here's the crop circle, looking at the telescope. And over here is like a woman with a veil. She's a shadow woman. Can you see this? Look at it till it comes out. The shadow. It's like the old TV show, The Shadow. They're looking at the dark matter. That he's looking through his telescope, the astronomers out at the stars, and they're seeing dark matter universes. So this is like a representation of people who live in the shadow. See the shadow? There's a woman here, here's her eyes and nose and the veil. And here's here's her shadow, a shadow person. So this is a metaphor. So do you understand the metaphor? Is it a bit complicated?
Just can't see the woman.
Oh, you can't see the woman. So here. This her eyes, and there's a little veil like a Muslim woman, or the little neck, and her arms, and the little she's wearing. And anyway, here's her shadow. She's looking at a shadow person. Maybe on the screen it's hard. So anyway, our astronomers are looking for dark matter, and they're implying that they live in the dark matter universes. And let's just, believe me, it's sort of hard to see. So Michio Kaku said, in search of the shadow universe, the dark matter, we only see 5%, the other 95%. One theory is dark matter may be ordinary matter in a parallel universe. If there's another galaxy hovering right over us, we can't see it, but we can feel its gravity. So these people are implying that the crop artists live in a parallel universe, which is the same as what astronomers call a dark matter universe. They're telling us where they come from. It's a bit of a complicated message. But if you're an astronomer and you're looking for dark matter, this is what the crop circle is implying, that they're living in the dark matter. And you imagine 5% here, 95% there, and no one's alive in all those 95% universes, just here. So they're implying the crop circles are coming from a parallel dark matter universe of the 95% that we can't see. It's very profound, isn't it? When you think about it, you think, oh, whoa, it's pretty profound. So go back and see the woman again. Here's the man looking through his telescope, like Captain, his little telescope. And here's the shadow of the woman, if I don't know if you can see it. Shadow person. So this is a metaphorical message. That was quite interesting to me, because if you're interested in dark matter and astronomy. Now,
Does dark matter have gravity
yeah, that's why
well,
well,
is it the same intensity?
well, they don't know, because they don't know how much dark matter there is. But all the Newton's law fails beyond our solar system. So they think there's other gravity-producing particles we can't see. Because Newton's law doesn't work beyond our solar system. Einstein's rule, scale of galaxies, it doesn't work. So the astronomers have no idea about the physics beyond our solar system. So they've postulated dark matter. It doesn't make any sense. So you imagine 95% we can't see. Just like the primitive man lived on Rome, and he thinks this is a one Earth, and this is all it is right here. The Earth is flat, Rome's the center of the universe. There are these planets everywhere. You see this doesn't mean anything to him. He can't understand there's all this vast stuff other places. So they're telling us the dark matter universes are real. There are probably a lot of aliens living in the dark matter universes, which you would expect if there's 95% of them, 5% of us. It'd be illogical not to expect that, wouldn't it? So the astronomers haven't quite caught up to this idea that, and they would use these wormholes, these conduits to travel. So now, this is the funniest and most impressive crop picture of the year. It's called the Mother Glass crop picture about a month ago in Anstey Farm Shop. And what happened is, let's just go look at it. What happened is, and over here, you'll notice the letter 16 for the year 2016. Can you see that? And here it was. What happened was, we'll look at some photos. That was a drone photo. What happens is, there's a lady there who makes corn mazes every year at the farm shop. It's a pick your own. And she makes corn mazes to talk to extraterrestrials. She leaves a little maze in the corn. People come in. This year she went on holiday, July 31st. There's no maze. She goes away, comes back August 5th, comes home, and there's a crop circle right where she draws her corn maze. The aliens have put a crop circle right there. So this is a very impressive thing. And what are we looking at? I look at it, and what are we looking at? Let's zoom in a little bit more. So there's really a lot of detail here. We can just forget the human hypothesis. But still we don't know what it means. So a couple days go by and nobody knows what it means, just that it's very, very impressive. You know, the leaves and all that. Here's another symbols around the outside. Look at all those things. Nobody's decoded those symbols yet. This looks like Taurus the bull. Serpens. Very, very impressive. You haven't seen it before. Hydra. So, what does it mean? People go immediately the first day, I know these people, and they take photos of the ground. That's what crop people do. Have they been crushed or not crushed? Even on the first day, the flowers were still blooming where the crop picture appeared a few days later. So nothing crushed these things. How can a flower be blooming where you just run over it with rope and boards? There's not a sign. Look at that. There's not a sign of any damage. Do you see any damage? Okay, so we got an extraterrestrial crops, but what does it say? So a few days went by, and then the mystery deepened. It became deeper. It's a dope crop picture, marijuana smoking, apparently. And what happened was, people look around, the flower of life, let it grow like at Nimbin. I used a Nimbin slide here. But apparently, this is the symbol, a little plant growing up in the middle. There's a company in America called Mothership Glass. And what they do, they make bongs, high-priced artistic bongs for dope smokers. But of course, when you pay $10,000 for a bong, you're not going to smoke out of it. You store it on the shelf. It's a collector's item. And this is the logo, or close to the logo of Mothership Glass. So the next thing people thought, and this shows the three-dimensional perspective. Look at that. See how the plant's sort of coming at you? I found that little plant image. That was the closest I found. And this is, see how it's coming up at you? The plant's growing. The plant's growing out of the flower, and around it you can see the flower of life. There's a flower of life around it. This is the flower of life.
That's not marijuana.
No.
It's not.
No, it's not. I know it's not marijuana. So I'll come to that in a second. So now let's look at the symbols. Someone said it's man-made. Here's the logo of the company. Mothership Glass. And people wondered what these lines were. So finally on the third or fourth day, I got high resolution, 30 high-res photos, like 5 megs, from the guy who photographed it, Matthew. Matthew Williams, thank you for giving the photographs. And I realized that this symbol logo, I was looking at the logo, was these lines. So there are lots of little lines, and no one could have done that with a rope and board, but it's very highly patterned. All those lines around the outside. Let's zoom in a little more. And you can see here, there's the logo, and look at that. Around there, and then you see all these little, imagine doing that. Look at all the little things. There's just details everywhere. My friends went there and took photos, you know. So it's a very highly impressive. This was Crop Circle of the Year. Matthew Williams took these photos. So thank you, Matthew. And I got the high resolution, like 5 megabyte base versions from his, so I could blow them up. And you can see every blade of grass, so you can look at the whole thing before anybody walked on it. So no human did this. But the mystery is still there. How could you have a logo from this bong company in Washington, a small bong company, appear in a field in England, and there are these strange symbols? And that people wonder about the symbols. So here are the symbols. And then finally I figured out, look, the letter H appears twice, the symbol appears twice, so that's how you've got to read it. Because there are only 2 H's, so that has to be the H. But there are a lot of these other symbols. So I posted that, because that's pretty easy decoding, isn't it? Only 2 H's, they're not 2 S's, 2 R's. But still we don't know what the symbol means. So the mystery deepened. So, one second, come back to this. So the man, anyway, so at this point we had to contact the CEO. And if you call him a CEO of a bong company, the guy, 40 years old, dope smokers, and we had to contact him and find out, did he have any involvement? And he's been dead quiet, he won't respond. I have a friend on Facebook who knows his brother-in-law, and I said, well, let the brother-in-law ask him. No response. So he's been dead quiet. So there's a mystery between, so we don't really know still. Everybody's investigated. Jaime Maussan's investigated. Gary King's investigated. There's no claim whatsoever from the Mothership Glass people they knew anything about this. So we have 2 options. First of all, he's making a joke, clearly, the extraterrestrial guy. The 2 options are A, he has some relation to the guy, the CEO there, like a contactee, and they did it as a joint joke. B, the guy in Washington, the young guy, is about 40, knows nothing about this, and the ET guy just got it off the web as a joke by Googling Mothership Glass. Just Google Mothership Glass and you'll find this. Okay? So we don't know. It's clearly humorous, but we still can't find a month later. Everybody's investigated, and it's very mysterious. Now, there are 2 metaphors associated with this. One is, I jumped to it too soon, that he could be up in his mothership looking down at it through the glass, and he said, what am I going to do next? Oh, I know what. I'm going to Google Mothership Glass and see if I can't find anything. And he found it, and it went on from there, okay? Which means he's not far away. He's using our web, probably watching this talk. The second metaphor, and there's the logo of the company, and this is the crop circle. Except the symbols have been replaced. Instead of mothership, you have these symbols. The other interesting thing is when you look where the symbols came from, they're not on his web page. This is on his web page, and I did a search that later that evening, where these symbols come from, and it turned out they're only on the Facebook page, and they were only posted July 2nd in very small print, so no one would have noticed them. So people searched, of course, when you get one of these, hundreds of people start the detective work, so they came to me. So these symbols have only been on his Facebook page July 2nd onward, and only twice, and they were in tiny print. No one would even pay any attention. So the whole thing remains a complete mystery, but apart from the fact that they can read our Facebook and our web pages. Now the other way is, when I looked at it, I said, maybe it doesn't mean we're looking at that. Maybe a glass is like binoculars. Because you look to where it was drawn, there's a little glass here like a man's head, and he's looking out at the mothership. Can you see our mothership yet? So there's a double meaning. We don't know which it is yet. But they're both pretty clever, aren't they? Mothership glass, and it's still a mystery. People have been investigating it. Clearly a joke. We don't understand what's going on. Now, a few days after this amazing crop picture appeared, some debunkers tried to spread a fake cover story. It had been made by a local man with open boards. The cover story lasted about 6 hours because the man they claim made it denied involvement. And still the British press kept spreading this worldwide in all their things, even though they had it was completely baseless. And I know it was British intel doing this. I'm not allowed to say because I'll get sued. I know exactly who was doing it. They're paid debunkers, okay? And they're part of, if there was nothing to be covered up, why did the debunkers go to so much effort? And I'm going to explain how the debunkers work. They work by, this is relevant, I'm not exaggerating, this is relevant to the next thing I'm showing. Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi, said if you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. And this is what the British debunkers and the British press does. Now, Joseph Goebbels was such a nasty man that Goering, the German general, was worried Hitler was spending too much time with him because he might corrupt Hitler. So even the generals didn't like Goebbels because he would just lie constantly. And this is what they're doing, and I'll come back to that. You'll see why the crop artist thinks exactly the same. I'll show the crop artist in a minute. So they're just doing that, and everybody in England believes it. They still believe it. You're the only ones, you see it, don't believe it. So if you're an English person watching this, now you know you've been lied to, and they're following the Goebbels debunking philosophy. Now, a few days later, the Nazi business, a week ago, a swastika appeared not far from Avebury. And this was mysterious because the British people freaked out. Oh, Nazis, Nazis, but it wasn't that at all. Here it was. So what happens is in that particular field, the ETs have patterned the background field, not using rope and board, some other method. So there's an image of a man's face winking, and this is the Quetzalcoatl headdress face. There's no doubt this is the legendary Quetzalcoatl, the Kukulkan, the favor of the Mayans. And he's shown this image many times. A man's face winking. See, can you see everyone see that? There's the open eye, there's the closed eye. And right where he has the third eye, he drew the swastika like that. His third eye, there's the Buddha with the swastika. Tibet, symbol of Tibet. And the reason he did this is because the Tibetan swastika is his third eye. There's no doubt why he did this. He's a message. Not the German swastika, but so it's a, just imagine this. It's a biting social commentary. I'll show you in a second. This is a close-up of it, the swastika with the 4 dots. And this is in a Tibetan monastery in Lhasa.
Yeah, that's where the Germans got it from.
Yeah, from there, from the German, right. And here's Tibet, and there's the monks with the monastery, where it's out, but they dropped the dots. So if you wonder where this came from, and this is what it means, I'll just shortcut. The only swastika which our friend will wear is a mark of the Buddha. He won't wear the swastika of the modern intelligence services. And I can tell you this is the correct interpretation, okay? He regards them like Nazis, the debunkers, and he just made this beautiful mother glass picture, and they've spread it all around the world, lying to the people. Instead of saying, hey, look at this, they lied to everybody. And I know who they are, and I can't, as I said, you want to put it on YouTube, and we don't want to be sued, okay? So he's the mark of the Buddha, is his swastika. You happy with that, people? Favors Tibetan Buddhism. Now, let's just see, who is he? If you go in close, you'll see within the arms of the swastika, there are little symbols. What does that look like? A serpent, a smiling serpent. Here's L for love. Over here, there's a little man's face, L for love. And I thought, maybe we can get some close-up images and look at it more closer. So Matthew kindly gave me the high-res images, and here's one. Matthew Williams flew over it. And here's the smiling serpent. There are two different smiling serpents. There's this one over here. There's his little and his little smile there. Can you see? Can everyone see that? Humorous, isn't it? Can you see that? Two different images of a little serpent that's smiling, and they've been patterned in the grass. There's his eye, and there's a little smile. Now, those are two arms of the swastika. If we go to the other side, we see the face of the crop artist. Now, this is a little fading, but there's a little headdress, like a Mayan headdress. These feathers, which is right over here. And here's a man with a beard, little pointy nose, mustache, beard. And that's why he swept the crop sideways to represent a beard. So he's patterning his schematic face, nose, mouth, and the crops. This is done in other cases. This is quite often. So there's no doubt the crop artist is human looking. And he's got a mustache, beard. I'll show you another one in a second. So this is the man who's making this. He's not a gray alien. It's impossible. The feathered headdress, the famous Aztec headdress. Quite impressive, really, when you consider it was done. Now here's another face, exactly the same field, 3 years before. Here he drew his face again, humorously, with the Mayan symbols all around. There's eyebrows, the jester, eyebrows, the nose, the two eyes, his two long earlobes with 3 dots, his mustache and his beard. Exactly the same field, not far away, but just a few years earlier. And interestingly, this is the Quetzal who Billy Meyer met, the UFO contactee in Switzerland. Remember Billy Meyer? This is Quetzal, the spaceship captain from the Pleiades in charge of Earth. So you think, oh, there's a bit of resemblance, don't you? You know, you don't know if it's true or not, but his long ears, you know, the Plejarin are supposed to have longer ears than us. So he puts his long ears like a pirate. This is really quite impressive. So he was sort of saying, oh, we're getting some truth here. Now these are actual images of Quetzalcoatl from 2,000 years ago. Authentic historical images. This is in the British Museum. I took that photo myself, piloting the ship with a little crop circle there. This is the feathered serpent with his little controlling device, the flying snake. And this is the jester. This was in La Venta, if you go to Tabasco, the 3-lobe jester's hat, which will come back. And here's ears, got something, little device on it. So the odds are he lived with the Mayans 2,000 years ago. Now, does the space-time traveler Quetzalcoatl, who once lived in Central America with the Mayans, apparently, come from the Pleiades? And will we see his mothership soon in the sky? These are the big questions for me. So let's just address that with facts. This was another crop picture last year, another humorous one, in Holland, where Robert photographed it, Robert van der Broek. And there's a picture of the Pleiades star cluster in the middle of an eye. In other words, he's looking at the Pleiades. And let's just zoom in here so we can see it. And here's some of the tufts, different stars of the Pleiades star cluster, and these actually match. This was the best photo I could get. So he's drawing the Pleiades in the crops. So that strongly implies that's where he comes from. So the Pleiades is right there. Coming from the Pleiades, and that's where Billy Meyer said Quetzal come from, the Pleiades. The same guy where Billy Meyer said these people have come from the Pleiades to see me. And here's another one. This was last year, not 2014. A Quetzal bird is flying toward Earth from the Pleiades. This is the landscape, they drew it there. Here's the little Quetzal bird flying, and there's the Pleiades. Now, what is this symbol? It's the universal hexagram. Love is the law, love under will. So he's drawing himself looking out with 2 little eyes, and these 2 little feathers you just saw of the turkey shoot. The love is the law. And it's called the universal hexagram. Do what you will shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. Now, this year, the reason I put that in, because it appeared again this year. This year, a few weeks ago, he drew it again in crops near Etchelhampton. This was in 2014, 2016. There's another hexagram carved into crops. Love is the law. This was in England. I know where that is a few weeks ago, August 8th. So they're coming again the same way. And interestingly about this one, there was if you think this was artificially made, there were 2 crop pictures made in 2015, and they were here and here. And they drew the new one here. So these are called ghosts. If there's a crop picture in a previous year, the crops don't grow properly. So they're in 2015, these were crop pictures. 2016, they're ghosts, and this is what they look like. This is an actual photograph by Matthew, and he drew it here. And what they were doing is, for that date, they were drawing a sky alignment of 3 planets a sky triangle. They did this with 4 times this summer of what the Saturn, Mars, and Antares look like. So it's very clever. They used a ghost to create a little astronomical drawing over a space of a year. So that's extremely clever, you know. Now, more recently, I'm going to bring you up to the very latest information on crop circles of the last week. This thing appeared, and I figured out that it was star trails. As the stars move through the sky, you get these trails, and there's a moon over them. It's a very clever image, isn't it? Not many people do it. The stars are moving, so they're telling us, look at the night sky, you know. Sky's there. Now, crop circles can be viewed in 2 different ways. Typically, they have double metaphors depending on how you look at them. Now, this is the schematic of what you saw. There's the star trail. But if you turn the other way, it looks like an eye. So they're telling us we can star trails, or we can watch the night sky. Look at the night sky. There it's going. We should watch it. And this is how they communicate. They think differently. Like these 2 things, maybe they have a 2-track mind. They're thinking with the eye and the thing that's associated, and you watch the parallel processing. You should watch the night sky. So is we can see the mothership soon? I don't know. It's very clever. And here's another one. If you're looking closely at it, here are 2 of them in the same field. This was from 2014. Here's a little eye that had LASIK surgery, like I had eye surgery, to help us see better. This is laser surgery, and there's a little serpent going over the pupil of the eye. We're going to see the serpent. And over here is the eye, and there's another little serpent image you see there. There's a fish there. I won't explain that. We're going to see the serpent when we look in the night sky, the little smiling serpent. So will we look up in the sky and see him soon? I think it will be this year, I suspect. And then just a few days ago, this was the last crop picture of 2016, continuing in a humorous fashion, the jester. I showed you he's got a jester's hat in ancient Central America, wearing this little hat. Walking the room wearing a jester's hat, right? So he drew the jester's hat in crops below the moon again. There's the jester's hat. There's little symbols here. There's some other things that it means, but it's an instrument landing system. This is near Southend Airport in London. So this is where the flight path where you fly into Southend Airport. And there's an instrument landing system, so the jester is flying into the airport. So this was the last crop. This means something, I won't get into it. This was the last crop picture of the year. So the big question now is, we sort of know what's going on. Let's just have a summary of all of this. We may be close to ET contact this year, 2016. We have the mothership glass. We have all this going on. I won't say, but close. At least we could see them up in the sky. They're telling us to watch the night sky. Secondly, there's a conflict between several groups of ETs. There's not just one. Some are friendly to us, the Joker, the Emerthers we talked about, and the Pleiadians. Others aren't friendly, the Greys from Orion and Zeta Reticuli. They plan to deceive us, and they tend to take over Earth using a Trojan horse strategy. And however shocked you are, this is the reality of it. The Trojan horse, which is what you would do. Now, the reason they want to disclose, because of this threat, the human races may force us to disclose early. So they're going to force disclosure. They're not going to wait for the governments. They're going to force us to disclose and defend ourselves. So this was the final line of the Emertha Code. You can't get any clearer than this. Royal Emertha warning: expose foreign technology to all. Evolutionary advancement needed to prevent takeover. So all these crop circles, all these messages, all have to do with this. Our governments are sitting on technology which we need to advance the planet, defense-wise, technology-wise, and they're probably keeping it secret for military purposes, like they don't want Russia and China to have it. However, in order to save ourselves, we need to expose that, the fusion technology, the defense technology, all around the world, so the corporations and the academics have it. And if you go back to that Linda Howell alien contact CJ, if you Google that, he talks about that for 30 minutes, exactly what the purpose of the Emerthas are. All the secret technology has to be brought out and shared with all the academics, all the corporations, with the people. No more lies. The lies have to end. We can't have the USA sitting there in the Area 51 talking to the aliens, and they give them some information. They're going to keep it just because America will be more powerful. Because the reason we can't do that is we have other threats more dangerous than Russia and China. Russia and China are not our threats compared to the other races, the Greys. So there's a conflict going on. We're sort of in a Cold War conflict, and that's the overall summary of everything. There's no doubt this is going on. And that puts the context to all these things, various races, and we're sort of like the little cheese in the middle. Did I explain that to everyone? They understand? So it's a serious thing. Beyond all the jokes, we have a serious thing. We have friends, we have enemies. So I'd like to thank all the crop circle people. I'm not doing this. There are hundreds and hundreds of people who do this. And the major group is Mark Fussell, Stuart Dyke, Matthew Williams, and Julian Bissoni of the Crop Circle Connector website in Bristol. Steve and Karen Alexanders of the Temporary Temples website, great photographers. Mr. Gyro, Hugh, who I know, Hugh Newman, Paul, who's a friend of mine, Gary, I was talking last night, Lucy Pringle, who I know, this nice Italian woman, Valeria, and her friend Sylvia, who flies the airplane. They've all taken all these great photos. They're all the Dutch people, Janet Osebard, Bert Jansen, Robert Michel, who took the photos, who I know. Linda Howe of Earth Files does news dissemination. Then Jaime and Fernando, who I know, are the Mexican TV. They spread in Mexico. Mexico has its own UFO show, we don't. So the Mexican people aren't being kept stupid like we are. Jaime tells them, and Fernando's a great guy, but they're both great guys. Fernando's like feel like a brother almost. We get on very well. So he's telling the people. The Mexican people know, and the U.S. people say, oh, it's all skeptical. So what I'd like to do now, I'm tired of talking. I can't communicate any better, and I'll take questions briefly if we have time. Okay.
Can you give us some indication of the size of the crop circles? Pictures, but we have no relative.
That last one was about 250, huge, like 200, 300 meters.
Is that the common denominator?
Some of them are small, like 50 meters, but they go up to 300 meters. They can be as large as 300 meters, but they go so as small as 20 or 50 meters. This was quite a, you might as well just look at a crop circle instead of me. This was quite a big one. Just look at that. We'll look at it compared to everything else. It's quite a big crop circle, isn't it?
Compared to the buildings.
Yeah, compared to the buildings. And the 16 over here. So I saw that as soon as I looked at it. 2016. So they're big. Yeah.
Do you have any other information on time travelers? You mentioned time travelers.
All the races all these advanced races can time travel.
Wow.
So there's no doubt space travel, time travel, the Earthers, so they're, the reason that they would rather influence our events indirectly than come down and land. For example, they might choose who wins the election, the American election. That's a big choice. So if they can swing that, they would change all of history. I don't know who they support, okay? But no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure who they support. However, of course, if Trump gets in, the UFO cover-up's over. So they would be for him on that basis. He would blab it. He's not keep his mouth shut on anything. But Hillary and Bill Clinton, they know about the UFOs. Of course, they're afraid maybe to talk. But Hillary would blab it. So maybe they would favor Trump for that reason, even though you might not like his other policies. I don't know.
I'll just pass the camera at the
Oh.
microphone off.
They can all time travel.
Hi, very fascinating, thank you. Do you not think also there's another way you could look at this, that crop circles come from under the ground upwards?
Can I answer?
Could there be, because, you know, we're into all these invisible realms and extraterrestrials and things like that, I'm into that type of thing as well, and they say, as above, so below, the microcosm of the macrocosm. So, you know, everybody looks out there where it could be also coming from inside the earth. Do you not think there's a possibility of that?
Well, that's what Patty Greer thinks, and Gary, some people think spirits or whatever. However, associated with these crop pictures, we have orbs flying around, just like UFO orbs, just like you see here. And my friends, close friends of mine have gone to a crop picture, and there's an observational orb in her photo. So there's like dozens of pictures of these UFO orbs. So it's possible by as a mechanism they come out of the ground to make them. However, there's no doubt that the technology that makes them has these high-tech mechanical devices, gravity-powered little rugby balls that fly around, and they're the same as the Foo Fighters in World War II. So the Foo Fighters in World War II are the same as the crop circle technology. So it's difficult to associate that with something come out of the ground. And I haven't shown them because I've written many articles. I just didn't show them in this talk. I showed one, I think.
Red, what do you think about Freddie Silver's comment that it's an intelligence communicating with a water table under the crop that causes the crop to lie down. That there's a communication going on between ET and the water table under the crop.
The mechanism isn't known. That the energy they use to make the circles isn't known, but it can be quite high resolution. So until we determine the mechanism, we can't really speculate on that. It's beyond, you know, if you fly around in a saucer, you probably have more technology than we do. So, I mean, the things aren't magnetic. Plants aren't magnetic, so you can't use magnetism. But there may be some other energy we don't even know about. So we don't really know.
Yeah, yeah. Last question, because we need to vacate the room. They've got a function tonight.
I can talk more downstairs.
When you were saying one of the photos were, can you see us yet? I wonder, would that be Planet X?
Excuse me?
When
Which
you were
one?
Saying, when the time traveller was saying, can you see us yet?
Oh,
Like, look up in the sky, can you see us yet? I wonder if that's Planet X that's supposed to be coming around.
it could be. However, he chose the mothership glass symbol that we're going to see. So that he's trying to say we're going to see a mothership. And it could be a quite big mothership like the Great Spacer or 10 miles long. What if it's 10 miles long and he's the captain, you know? I've always thought that, you know, the other crop pictures I won't tell you. The other crop pictures showing that in 2012 they left the Pleiades and they got here and it came through a wormhole. It was dated. They know exactly what day it was by our time. For 4 years they've been in transit from the Pleiades to come here, and they're in the mothership. And so there's other crop pictures saying that from like years back. I just haven't put them in the talk. So they've made a big journey from the Pleiades to come here for some reason. So my hunch is they are going to be a big mothership, and this particular group could be in the Pleiades. Of course, they both, when you get the races, you have various, they could all birthers, the Pleiadians, they could all be working together and making, there's not just one source of the crop pictures. I'm not implying there's one. But, so I suspect that this really is going to be a, when they tell us to look at the sky. There.
When did they first appear?
The first crop pictures was known in the 1600s, consistent with time travel. There was an article in Nature about one 1880, but there was no photo. So time travelers, they've been appearing for hundreds of years. Let me just say that some of them, I haven't talked about it, some of them have no meaning other than to mark space-time continuums, like the one I was working on. Just like a man's walking through the forest, and he doesn't know where he is, he puts a mark on the tree with a knife. Some of them are 100% like that, where they have no meaning other than this is a mark. There's a certain time and a date, and this is so parallel realities, but we don't understand because it's too much for us. So a lot of them are just space-time markers. They don't have any message. They might just show the planets for a certain date, and that it's clearly that this date this is the space. It may be in a different reality, different universe or time stream. There'd be a different crop circle. So since we can only see one, it's like quantum mechanics. We collapse the wave function. We can only see one. So a lot of them are space-time markers for sure. They don't have any message. They're just someone marking there.
Do they leave any stimulus, like meteorites going to another planet and all the nutrients or elements in the meteorite to grow something new idea, a new substance?
I don't know, but there's some of them, the ones I showed you are from 8,000 AD, 6,000 years in the future. And that's the Rendlesham Forest case. There are people like us, probably from a different universe, but they live on Earth 6,000 years from now. So you can imagine 6,000 years, they're coming back, and there's quite a lot. I could have talked about time travel just as much as the crops, but I didn't. So time travel is a very big element. In our future, 6,000 years from now, they know how to time travel. So these could be all time travel.
They might even be us in 6,000
That's right.
years.
What if we go to the stars and the aliens we see now are us 6,000 years from now? We go to the stars and they come back from different stars 6,000 years from now and they're us. So we don't know.
And we look different.
We look different.
Yeah, by then we're
Genetic.
completely
Mouse
hybridized.
got really small.
Yep, we don't talk anymore. We need telepathic.
We don't know.
All right, please thank Colin, Dr. Horace.